This is Leo. When he first came into our home, he was a ghost. A small, trembling shadow, frozen with fear. He wouldn't move, wouldn't eat, and wouldn't even look at us. He hid himself away in the darkest corner he could find. A prisoner of a past we could only imagine. His body was tense, his ears pinned back, eyes wide and full of terror. We didn't know if he would ever trust us, or ever feel safe again. But one look at that fragile little life, and we knew, we had to try. This is Leo's story. Of fear, courage, and the power of love. That first week was heartbreaking. We prepared a quiet, safe room for him. A soft bed, food, water, and a litter box. We thought it would help him feel secure. But Leo wanted none of it. He found a tiny gap under the dresser, and stayed there. For 72 hours, he didn't move. We'd enter the room quietly, speak softly, leave food and water untouched. We learned not to look at him directly, because to a frightened cat, a stare can feel like a threat. So we just sat there, silently, letting him get used to our presence. We wanted to reach out, to hold him. But this had to be on his terms. He wasn't a bad cat. He was just surviving, the only way he knew how. On the fourth morning, something changed. The bowl of food we'd left out was empty. Such a tiny thing. But it meant everything. He had chosen to eat. He had chosen to live. That was the first crack of light in his dark little world. So we kept going. We left little treats closer to the edge of his hiding spot. At first, he'd only come out when we left. Then, he started to eat while we stayed in the room. One evening, while I was reading out loud, I saw two little ears poke out from under the dresser. He was listening. He didn't come out. But he was curious. And that tiny spark of curiosity was hope. A few weeks later, he'd moved from under the dresser to under the bed. A bigger world, but still safe. We stayed patient. We didn't push. We just rewarded every bit of bravery. Then one quiet afternoon, I lay on the floor, holding out a plate of tuna. 10 minutes passed. Then, slowly, his little head appeared. He looked at the tuna, then at me. You could almost see the battle in his mind. Finally, he crept forward, took one lick, and darted back under the bed. My heart was pounding. It was just 1 second of trust. But that second meant the world. Then came the setback. A loud crash, a pot fell in the kitchen. The sound echoed through the house. In an instant, Leo disappeared. Back under the dresser. Back to the shadows. For 2 whole days, he wouldn't come out. It was devastating. But we knew, this was part of the process. Healing isn't a straight line. It's 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So we started over. Quietly. Patiently. And after 2 days, he came out again. Still cautious. Still scared. But he came back. And that's what mattered. 2 months later, we opened the door to his room. He could explore, if he wanted to. For days, he just stood there. At the doorway. Watching. Then, one evening, he stepped out. One paw, then another. He explored the hallway. Sniffed every corner. Peeked into the living room. He even tried out a scratching post. Then ran back to his safe space. But every day, he went a little further. He was no longer living in fear. He was discovering life. For months, he kept his distance. He'd follow us from room to room, but never close enough to touch. Then, one night, I was sitting on the couch. Leo hopped up on the other end. I gave him a slow blink. The cat's way of saying, "I trust you." And then, he blinked back. He walked closer, stopped just within reach, and leaned his head against my hand. I froze. And then, a sound, deep and soft. Purr, purr. It grew louder, until it filled the room. It wasn't just a purr. It was a victory. The wall of fear had finally fallen. He wasn't a rescue cat anymore. He was our Leo. He was home. 6 months later. You'd never recognize him. The cat who once hid for days now sprawls out on the living room rug, belly up in the sunlight. He plays with toys, demands breakfast every morning, and insists on sitting on our keyboards while we work. He greets us at the door, his tail high, a proud question mark of love. He's no longer a prisoner of fear. He's confident, curious, and happy. That frightened little shadow has become a beam of light. Leo's transformation wasn't magic. It was patience. It was trust. It was love. There are so many animals out there, just like him, waiting for someone to give them a chance. If Leo's story touched your heart, please consider supporting your local animal rescue. Every donation, every volunteer hour, every adoption changes a life. And if you'd like to see more stories like this, subscribe and join us on the next journey of hope.